we have 15 already, and it's
Hey.
rising. Hello and welcome. This is Idle Courses Academy workshop. I am Chastity, and I am an Idle Courses team member, and I'm an alumni since January of 21. And I'm super excited to be here with you guys. And we have Russell Sweep joining us. He is a learning experience designer with 7 years in instructional design and LXD, where his passion for discovery, aesthetics, and making a difference drive his work. Russell's background is in facilitation, blending, learning, and cognitive theory. After earning his master's, he went into the workforce to develop interactive lessons for higher education. In his free time, he hosts the Global Learning and Development Community Weekly Project Club. That sounds fun. And runs a podcast called the L&D Hot Seat, which I have actually seen on LinkedIn. I love your posts.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome, Russell.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm seeing everyone coming into the chat. Please do. I've got that window open. So if you have any questions or you'd like to interact through that, you're more than able to. Chastity, are they able to voice in if they want to talk as well? Or is it chat only?
Pretty sure it is chat only.
Okay. That's perfectly fine. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this topic that we're going to be discussing, and then also give you kind of a breakdown of what this session is going to look like. So we are here talking about interactive maps. So some of you might be wondering what that is. Essentially, an interactive map is any sort of map that you can interact with, you can engage with it. So I want you to think about your like downtown maps that you can just like look down at from an eagle eye view, and you can click on specific areas so that you can pull up information about them. Or maybe Google Maps that you'll be able to create a route. So the best way to reach your destination. So those would be interactive maps. And there is specific ways that you can create more engagement using these through Storyline. And I'm going to be discussing that and going through specific examples with you so that you can indeed create this as well. So a little bit of a breakdown of what the session is going to look like. I'm going to be showing you 3 examples of different types of interactive maps. We're going to go through those and maybe talk a little bit about like what these people did for creating these, what their emphasis was in kind of engaging a lot of their learners. And then in one of those, I'm going to show you how to build that. So if you have Storyline, or if you are thinking about getting it, you can write down these notes, follow along, so that you'll be able to create one of these. And then towards the end, I'm going to be giving you a prompt for creating a project. So I know a lot of people are trying to figure out what they want to put in their portfolio to show that they are competent, that they can build something into these authoring tools. This is going to be your chance to kind of brainstorm your own project with other group members and come together as deciding how you're going to use what you previously learned into a new project. So it's going to be super exciting. And then at the very, very end, we're going to have everyone come together and kind of talk a little bit about how they would build their own project and what that would look like. So if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on that. But, kind of got the command center here moving around from different areas. So if I don't pick it up, Chastity will be able to write down those questions and maybe bring that up at a later point. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. Okay. Can everyone see that all right? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Excellent. All right. So one of the things that Chastity had mentioned earlier is that I run something called the GLDC Project Club. So it's the Global Learning and Development Community. It is people from all around the world that get together, and on Thursdays, we discuss projects. Specifically, we look at themes from the e-learning heroes challenges. That's run by Articulate, the people who release Storyline and Rise, a lot of these authoring tools. And so they hold weekly challenges based upon specific themes. One of those challenges was about creating maps and kind of like these interactive tours related towards them. And I thought it was such a really great idea. I reached out to a couple of these people that are also in Project Club, and I asked them if I could use some of their examples for this course. And they said yes. So we have the permission from these artists to go ahead and go through these. And I'll be sharing those links with you as well so that you can go through these projects and on your own free time and take a look at them as well. So this first one right here is, let's see, I'm going to bring this down slightly because for some reason it is hovering around. I'll just do that. All right. So I'm going to share the link for this first one right here. This is Yvonne's project. It is over in Fort Davis, Texas, the McDonald Observatory. And this particular project uses 3D imagery in order to capture a museum setup inside. So let's go ahead and enter into that. Okay. So for this one, you click and drag to look at the museum setup and a lot of this a lot of these different displays. And then another thing Yvonne did was you have some interaction here with these markers that you can click onto to go ahead and see the actual displays themselves. And then you'll notice once you click on one of them, it will tell you on the bottom how many you visited, and it will stop glowing or stop the little ring icon around it to indicate that you've already visited that. So, who do you think could benefit off of something like this? Let's start there. And go ahead and just write your response into the chat. Where do you think something like this could be useful in a real world situation? So Danielle is saying students. Roberto says museums, right? Someone who's unable to get out of their house, so virtual field trips, laboratories as well. Definitely. Yeah, a lot of virtual learners that are going to benefit off of this if they can't actually be there physically. And this is actually something that happened a lot during the global pandemic for COVID-19, where museums were having to shut down. They weren't able to sell to a lot of museum goers. So they had to come up with creative interventions. And one of those was taking their displays and creating them like this. So this is actually very relatable towards real world practical application. And if you did want to create something like this, you can definitely showcase it, and it will show kind of your technical skills that you're able to meet a real world problem. Yeah, D. Genko, I believe, says a preview before a class trip. That's also a really great point. I know that I've worked with young children before, and it can be a little crazy sometimes, caroling everyone together to like do the same thing. When you have a little insight or perspective into what you're going to be going into, it's actually really great to kind of give that precursor so you can prepare people down the line where you're going to be going next. Or limited capacity in terms of visitors. That's a really great point too. If it's very popular, you might want to tease some of these interactions or some of these displays later on. So a couple things about this and how Yvonne created this. Some of you who have used Storyline might remember or might know that you can embed 360 images directly into it, and it will take on those images, and then you can scroll around through that. However, Yvonne didn't have a 360 camera, so what she did is she took a panoramic picture. So this is with a very steady hand. She just moved around in a circle with a panoramic picture on her iPhone, and she created this. And you can probably tell that if you look down at the bottom, it's not really like clear cut. She actually stretched the bottom in order to make it fill out completely. Luckily, she was also inside of a dark area. So the top area of this room is an empty area, and she created a black rectangle to fill in the gaps of where the ceiling might be. So definitely something you could do with just any like anything at your disposal. If you have a smartphone, this is something you can accomplish. And based upon the panoramic view, you can embed that as a 360 image into Storyline. Another thing that she did was typically on 360 interaction on Storyline, you're not able to create layers or have layers come up, like clicking on a display and then having this happen. So what she did is she just created different slides with this, trying to mimic the displays as much as possible. So she would take pictures of them and then try to copy and paste the same types of information onto those slides. So creating this kind of artificial display based upon that. All right. Anything else about Yvonne's project before we move on towards our second example here? Okay. So definitely a really great idea if you have displays, if you have a tour, something inside that you need to take advantage of. I know someone else mentioned maybe like a garden, if you want to go throughout this garden, but maybe it's off season, it's closed for some reason. This is a great alternative for you to do. Yeah, definitely resourceful with using what you have. So like using just an iPhone to do this, really great idea. Okay. This next project is by Samuel Opata. So this one is going to be a little bit more kind of realistic towards an outdoor event, I would say, or maybe a town gathering. So for this one, this is a scavenger hunt adventure for the Stockyards National Historic District. And you'll notice that this is created in our Articulate Rise. So a different program from Storyline, but still under Articulate. A lot of companies do prefer Rise just because it's a little easier to work with, and you can produce a lot of this content a lot faster. So releasing that and being able to be aware of, how long it's going to take in order to send out a project is very important when you're in that field. Okay. So right here, we have this aerial view of what the town looks like, specifically this historic district right here. And we also have these markers that are popping up. So we can click on them and we have what Samuel has referred to as a interactive or scavenger hunt. So in this situation, clicking on them and then being able to like move around, learn a little bit more about it, and then clicking either on the actual markers themselves or moving down a preconceived path or a route where you need to go. So for this one, where do you think this could be applicable? What types of situations would this be helpful to create a project for? Travel companies or a campus tour. Yep, the municipality, or for tourists, a walking tour. Yep, I like that. Equipment functions, interesting. Okay. If you wanted to create maybe a virtual tour for how a device works, a festival, yep, or even an anatomy lesson. That's a really great point too. I like that. So if you wanted to kind of travel throughout the human body and use that as like a virtual tour, you could definitely do that. Instead of maybe just physical locations, you use a device or you use an anatomical part in order to navigate that. Anything in which you have routes or specific areas that you want to mark for details, that's a great idea in order to incorporate into this. Yeah. Now, oftentimes when you go to a new place, it's really great for you to have a map so you can figure out a lot of things like where you're going to park, the best routes that you need to take, if things are shut down. And this kind of aerial view can offer that. It's a really great opportunity for you to plan out where you're going to be going and what is the next step. And so having something like that, or having a tour in which you have numbered based upon like where you should start and where you should end, is a really great idea to incorporate into your project. Because although anyone can travel to, all of these locations in any direction or any kind of number that they want to, offering a particular tour could be great if you're talking about maybe a chamber of commerce or a town that wants to, put specific areas of interest along that pathway. So having some sort of physical trail or some sort of, pathway that people can follow for easier transport, that could be a great idea for just making it easier for, everyone to be able to enjoy it and hit all the key points that they want to. This is also really great for accessibility. If you want to note what are the most accessible trails for people who might have disabilities, or maybe there's certain areas that have ramps, but other ones don't, being able to note that is a really great point if you want to get like a good amount of visitors to come out. Okay. So we have two very different situations right here. What are the gray numbers versus the white ones? So this is a pre-rendered map. It was already created, and I believe it already has points of interest. So these don't actually have any, like, you can't interact with these. It's just a layer, but Samuel put in his own dots in here. So yes, in a situation like this where you were creating this for an actual client, you would make sure that you don't have anything that is a little confusing in a situation like that. It's a good point. So we have two different examples of interactive maps here. Our first one is for displays and maybe a much more up-close interaction. And our second one is a top-down view looking at maybe a town and kind of discussing a particular route. So both of these are wildly different, but you could definitely see how they could interact with each other. So I believe someone was saying, Francis, you were saying the idea of a physical place like a museum. Maybe the museum has multiple buildings and you have a physical map of it that you can interact with that might give some of the key features or some of the biggest displays that are happening there. And then you have the more intimate kind of guided tour once you get inside. All right. Our last one is going to be one that I created, and this is a pretty easy display that I'm going to show you how to build. So this one here is a very simple kind of integration. So if you can't afford to go around, take pictures of all these different areas, then sometimes you need to take shortcuts. And in order to do that, what I've done is I've integrated in Google Maps into my storyline project. Scavenger map. What was the scavenger map? A storyline embedded in Rise. It was actually just Rise. So Rise has the ability to create markers on images. So they just put in the image, then they put the markers on there. Okay, so for this one, this is the campus, or this is the college that I went to get my master's, California State University, Northridge. So I just created this display really quickly, enjoy our lovely campus. And then we click next, and we are taken to Google Maps. Brenda, also from Cal State. So you have a Google Maps interaction here. Here is the famous library. It's been on several movies, so we always like to talk about our library. And then you can move around to where you need to go. So, and then finally, I got one last. Thanks for visiting. Super simple. And I'm going to show you how to actually interact with this. So where do you think, I mean, obviously this could be useful for students to be able to go through this, but in other situations, where do you think it would be helpful to embed Google Maps into your project? So Google Maps is probably going to be very useful for outdoor movement, right? Okay, so definitely if you have a corporate campus, and they need to get to that. Real estate. Oh, I love that, Brooke. That's a really great point. Yeah, you said the same thing, Jen. Awesome. Christmas light display map. That could be really cool, especially if those pictures had changed. I know Google Maps doesn't really update them on a frequent basis, so it may not be as good, but it can definitely be very surprising once you get to those areas and those lights are there. How do you get to an event? Okay. Evacuation routes. That is awesome, Tina. Really great. All right. So we have a lot of really great points here. Travel agency or tourism, fiber lines along the streets, utility companies. Yes, these are really great points. So it can be very useful for you to be able to integrate the capabilities directly into your project. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I have right here Google Maps. I also have a storyline project that I've opened up. This is the exact same project right here. I just took out the middle slide that has the actual map capability. So we're going to go back to Google Maps first. And if you want to, you can follow along with this or take notes. If you have any questions, be sure to just ask them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them, and we'll go at a nice, easy pace. So for this, you want to get a specific address or specific coordinates. So you'll just take your little guy here, float him over to where you want to drop him. I usually put him right here directly in front of the library because that is one of the most pristine areas of the actual campus. So we have this right here. I need to move this down slightly. Okay. So we have this is the street view, the exact same one that we had previously. You'll be going over to these three dots right here and then go down to share or embed image, and then moving over towards embed a map. This is the HTML that you're going to be putting directly into Storyline as a web image. So you'll be copy and pasting that. And then once you get into your slide itself, you'll be going to insert, and then let me move this down so you can see this a little better. Insert, and then going to web image or web object. I'm sorry. Now you could put it directly into your address right here, but that can cause problems sometimes. So it is better to edit the text a little bit before putting it in. So what I have done is I've opened up a notepad, and I'm just going to paste that HTML directly into this notepad. Can you embed maps in other platforms like Moodle or Canva? That's a really great point. I haven't tried, but definitely I know LMSs have a lot of capabilities. So looking into that would be a really great idea because it'll be directly on the platform. All right, so right here we have our HTML. You're going to do a little bit of editing. It's not going to be super scary. You're going to take everything before the HTTPS and delete that, including the quotation mark. And then at the very end, you're going to be taking everything after the numbers coordinates. So make sure you get the same notation right there and delete everything right there. So at this point, you'll have a URL, and then you're going to have these coordinates right here, and you'll be copying everything. Okay. So now that's exactly what you put into your web object. So just delete this HTTP because you already have that. Paste in what you previously had. So this is just the exact same link with the edits. And then keep everything the same. And just click OK. All right. So now we have a web object that's embedded here. The problem is you're not able to really interact with this until you publish it. So if we go to preview here and we try and look at it, it's not going to look good. And that can be problematic sometimes when you're trying to edit. Like let's say you wanted to put in a banner above this, or you wanted to embed some buttons to click next. You're going to have to do a little bit of guesswork. And so that's okay. It's not so difficult. And once you know how Google Maps actually look in your project, you'll be able to, take a screenshot and then interact with that previously. But you do need to do a little bit of dancing around on this. So when you saw it, we did have kind of this white border, so you can kind of just move it around so that you can cover up everything and have it all nice. Stretch it out a little bit. All right. So now we have explore a lovely campus. We have this web object, and then thanks for visiting. What we're going to do is we're going to publish this. I'm going to publish it onto the Review 360. We'll call it CSUN Maps. And then once you publish it, it's going to be connected to the internet, and it'll have access to the Google Maps that you previously had. So this is going to start to work now. Hopefully will work. We'll see. All right, so let's go in here. This is the project that we just had. All right. CSUN Campus. Click next. There we go. And you can embed all the pictures you want to. You could do name it something else. If you click on this, it will go directly towards the actual Google Maps URL. So you'll be able to access that. And then that's pretty much it. So any questions about this process? What was the purpose of getting the embed code and then deleting the parts of the code that signals it's an embedded object to just the GPS coordinates? It's a good question. So I do know that it wants it embedded in a specific format. So it could be because of the format. It could also be that the coordinates themselves need to be in a specific location in order to pick up on that. I'm not quite sure, but definitely doing a little editing like that will just make it a lot easier. So I can, I do know that this is going to be recorded, so you can definitely review this later on if you want to go through that process again. So can we add points of interest via Rise into the Google Maps Street View? That's a really great point. So points of interest. Since you're drawing on an external software like Google Maps, you can't really edit that. However, if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to okay, I want to take this banner and put that right here. And I want to indicate that this is, you are at CSUN, so people know, right? And I want to publish that. So now it should have a particular banner that is directly on top of that layer. Okay. All right, so let's look at the new project. It should just have some of these parts that you can just add directly on top of that. But having something that's interactive might be a little more difficult with the actual map capabilities. Right, so we got this banner right here. It doesn't look so great, but you get the point. That you'll be able to add it directly on top. If you wanted to, you could have maybe a block that has some sort of trigger towards it that you can interact with it. That capability should be something you can build into it. But I don't think it'll be able to tell you, if you're at a specific address, then it shows a layer or it engages with a trigger. I don't think it has that capability. Add a character giving you instructions on where to go, for example? Absolutely. I think that's a really great point, to have some sort of avatar that helps you out. Have a Google virtual tour creator. Honestly, if it has the same kind of ability to embed, I think you probably would be able to do something like that. Limit it based on where you want the tour to go. I don't see why not, if it's using the exact same kind of Google Maps interface. Yeah, that's a really great point. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is we are going to create a project of our own. So I have a prompt. Let me stop sharing for a second. I have a prompt that I've created, and I want you to work together to try and build a particular project. Now, it looks like because we are in webinar mode, we're not able to break out into rooms. So what we're going to do is we're going to take like you're going to write down your comments on what you think should be added to this project in order to make it your own. And we're going to try and collect as much as those comments as possible. I think Chastity is going to help me with that, so that we'll be able to create kind of a document that we can then share with you of how to take these steps to create your own project. So for this, the prompt, I want you to imagine that a city has contacted you because they want your help to create an interactive map for them. They have an event that's coming up. It's a spring solstice pub crawl. So they have 4 different pubs that they're going to be in this event that have their own drinks and their own mascots that are all very spring solstice kind of around that event. And they want people to be able to know how to get to those areas. What are the mascots? They want to have some information about the history of these pubs. And then most importantly, they also want to have the patrons, or give the patrons, a chance to take pictures when they're at those pubs so they can enter it in for a drawing to win a prize at the end of the night. So we have a lot going on there. Let me switch this to everyone. And I am going to paste this in. Can everyone see what I just pasted into chat? Just give me the old thumbs up if you can. Awesome. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine everything we've just went through. So we had Yvonne's project that was about displays. We had Sam's project that was about an eagle-eye view on an actual map and then kind of trails and kind of the scavenger hunt. And then we have my project that was about embedding Google Maps into your project. How do you combine these in order to create a interactive map pub crawl for this town? And I want you to imagine that not only are you creating this project for them, but you are adding more value to it. So what I want you to be writing down in the comments section is, what can you add to this project to bring it more value and to make this event more successful? So you probably wouldn't add things like, oh, I think the drinks should be like all, I don't know, tequila sunrises or something like that. Instead, what you should be doing is think about, how can you meet their goals? Their goals are to get patrons to these pubs, to get them to spend their money, to make sure that they are safe, and to make sure that they're not overwhelmed. So it's supposed to be a fun event. So write down in the comments, how would you add to this project so that you can think about more things to add to it, or how would you integrate in the tools that you previously had in order to make this a better project all around? Okay. So I'm going to start reading some of these. We have Roberto, you say ATM locations. I really like that, especially if you're talking about, maybe other stands that are selling things to sober up people, maybe some nuts or pretzels or something like that. Yep. V, you're saying where to park. Excellent. I think that's a really great point to add into this, especially if you're talking about congestion and people who are getting there. And also, it can be very expensive. People can get towed. There's a lot of problems when you have a lot of people who are coming towards the area. Roberta, you say porta potties. Really great points. You have all these people that are going to be drinking a lot and might get sick or need to use the restroom. Where are they going to find those, right? All right. Ooh, Christopher, interesting. Making the map a puzzle, like an escape room element, or gamifying on that. Can you expand a little bit more on that? What do you think can be added to make that a little bit more of a gamified aspect of it? Remember, each one of these pubs has their own. Here, actually, I'm going to share my screen one more time. I've got some pictures. I wasn't able to send the pictures on the actual webinar or on the chat. So I'm going to just show you some pictures. Let me see if I can. No, I can't do that. All right. So these are our mascots for the town. This is our town itself. Got the Capitol building in the middle. All right. We also have some people that saying Google Maps to the event or location. So that's a great point. I like that. Okay, so having a streetwise view and then Google Maps on the street itself, so you can have interactive engagement with that. That's a really great point. Ooh, Roberto, I like that. The lost and found and info tents. Info tents can be excellent, especially if you want to keep people organized and on track. Best Uber drop-offs and pickups, says Jamie. That's excellent too. I really like that. April, you're hitting that point about how do they send their pictures? How do they upload their pictures to different locations? And you're saying a QR code to scan it and upload it. That's an excellent point too. Is there a way to use your project to give them information on like where they need to send that to, or like how do they, like what kind of tagline or what kind of hashtag do they include when they post it to social media? Like that kind of information would be very integral, because all that, like all those goals are going to be in one spot. You don't want them to have to go to different links. You don't want to have them use different tools. Something that is accessible in one area is what they want. All right. So Christopher, adding back towards the gamifying, maybe the route reveals itself as you solve riddles. Perhaps. I've definitely done a couple kind of like interactive, like Alice in Wonderland, like escape room kind of stuff like that. Although a lot of people are going to be intoxicated, so it might be kind of difficult in order to really maximize that effect. But if you did have maybe the idea of the mascots that were at these particular areas and they have to take pictures with those mascots, that might be a little bit more of kind of like a checklist or a bingo sheet that they need to solve, right? Okay. Tokens at each of these locations for a prize. Okay. So taking those pictures at those areas, being able to relate them towards those mascots, that's a really great point. Provide history of the mascots. Sure. Why not? I mean, you're making it fun, right? Awesome. And then the branded hashtags for the events, the organizers as well, so that they can connect to the pubs. I think that's a really great point. Will the 360 map work well in mobile device? It should work perfectly fine. I haven't seen any issues with that, but that is a really great point if you are considering maybe the virtual tour. If you're creating maybe a virtual tour and you want it to be in like a particular format, so it's going to start at like bar 1, then go to bar 2 and bar 3, making sure that that is organized in a way so that it works seamlessly, that might be a really good point to kind of concentrate on. Francis, you are saying an aerial map, including a lot of the facilities, creating interactive points. Okay. All right. And then the options to take picture and share to social media. I love that. Now, if you are talking about, let's say routes, you wanted people to take specific routes. If they're going on, if they're walking, if they're driving, how would you tackle that challenge? What do you think would be the best way to do that? Tina, I really like that. Walking routes are labeled with footstep icons. That's a really great point. Anything else? Anything else that would help people navigate? Okay. So Dijenko, you're talking about it determines on where you're starting. And that's a good point too, right? Because if you're considering the location of all of these, and yeah, exactly, trying to prevent bottleneck and traffic accidents and things like that. So Terry, you're saying number them? Yep, exactly. Let's say that we have pubs here. We got a pub over here, and then we have another one right here. We got one right there, one right down here. So these are all different blocks, right? We have tons of, roads that are going to be leading towards each one of these, making sure to label them, making sure to determine like, these are on different sides of town, where they're located. And then like, depending on if you're concentrating at one pub, maybe you can separate it by like north, east, south, and west to have a better organization capability for your learners. I like that. Different colors for on foot or vehicle. So if they are organized based on location, you could even include in like capacity, right? Maximum capacity to determine if like, you need to go to a different bar right now, or you're not able to make it there. We asked the user first, how will you be pub crawling? Okay, yeah. So you're saying maybe kind of like a scenario based. Ask them how they're going to get there. If they're going to get there like taking an Uber, are they going to drive, or are they going to walk? Maybe having 3 options. All right. Okay. So it looks like we have a lot of different options on how we can organize navigation. Let's talk about another one, safety. How do you think you can incorporate something in regards to safety of your patrons? Because as people get intoxicated, it might be more dangerous later on in the night. It's going to get darker. People are going to be considering how they're going to get home. So you need to have something else that can be in your training for them to access for safety. What are you going to incorporate in? How are you going to engage that? I believe it's Sama. You say authorized staff members, hospitals, cab companies. Yep, Kalinka. I like that. First aid tents, rides, shares, pickup locations. Yeah, definitely. That's a good one. Yes, Sama, I love that a lot. Emergency numbers. Having some sort of access where I know we talked about everything should be kind of in this project, but when you're talking about like reaching out towards either law enforcement, or you need like medical attention or something like that, offering links or offering something that they can click on so they can go directly to the website, or they can go directly towards the phone number or the link. I think that would be like definitely something that should be incorporated in. Virtual boundary. That's interesting, Roberta. I like that, especially if you're talking about the pub crawl itself being an event that's located in one area, right? Perhaps there's other areas of town that are less or more dangerous. Maybe there's like vandalism or something that's been reported in certain areas. So because of that, having those virtual boundaries could be very helpful to inform visitors to stay within the event itself, or the pub crawl. Of course, if someone wants to go out and continue the party and go to like another, bar or a club or something like that, they should be able to. But like for the event itself, it's sanctioned within this environment. Are you okay message every couple hours with emergency cab or numbers in it. That could be super interesting, right? I could see that, especially like a little tab that's coming up that's just like, do you need a ride? Something like that, just to remind people to be like, okay, it's getting later at this point. It's like, it's 11 o'clock. Do you need a ride? So you can definitely integrate that into projects. There is, based upon how in depth you want to get into like your storyline project, you can embed it so it can interact with the actual clock of your device. So if you wanted to say, okay, at 11 p.m., I want this trigger to activate, and it's going to show this layer to say, are you all right? Do you need a ride? Click this button if you want a ride, or links to it. And that's a really great way for you to kind of add a little bit more interactivity into it. Thank you very much, Christopher. Yeah, so I think having some of those standards on safety is a really great point. I see Samad talking about accessibility options. I think that should absolutely be considered as well, especially if you're talking about information of the locations, right? Okay, so we have the locations themselves. Will you show your version of this activity? Oh, this activity itself on like what we're actually doing. I just created this as a prompt for everyone. So I haven't actually done this entire activity before. I did think about creating a statue tour for my local town because they have a lot of statues. And I thought that could be really fun. But then work got in the way and it's just, I wasn't able to juggle it. So unfortunately, wasn't able to do it. But maybe in the future. One of the reasons that I brought up this particular topic is because I really like the idea of how many tools are integrated into this and how this solves a real problem. I could see a lot of people wanting this. Maybe not at such like a large scale of saying like citywide wants this to be a pub crawl, but I could see this being incredibly useful for, like we've talked about earlier, a museum tour, a school tour. Maybe you wanted to do it for a corporate business so that they can new orientation or new workers can come in, or before they come into the office, they can see what the office looks like and know exactly where everything is. I really like this idea because it's something that can offer a little extra ingenuity or a little extra skill towards your projects. And that really shows, it shows a lot to recruiters, to hiring managers, that you're able to do something different. So I hope that you definitely drew something from this and that you liked it. If there is anything that, like, if you wanted to add some more to this or create this project, feel free. All the people that I reached out to beforehand, like Yvonne and Sam, they gave permission to be able to use these projects, so you can draw that inspiration. And feel free to like add these people on LinkedIn as well. If you want to add myself on LinkedIn, you can do that as well. I'd be glad to help you out with stuff like that. And actually, let me see. I had previously mentioned that I lead the GLDC Project Club. So let me drop that link in the comments as well. All right. So the GLDC is the Global Learning and Development Community. It is a free group to join where they meet 3 times a week. So different time zones for different people around the world. But depending on what's easier for you, you can jump into that. And it's just an opportunity to network and get to know other people in learning and development. So in this particular link that I sent you, this is the group that I lead on Thursdays. It's called Project Club. And we do something very similar to what we just did right now. We look at the e-learning heroes challenges. These are weekly prompts that happen every week, and we discuss how the people created their particular projects, how we could improve on it, how we could integrate it into our own projects, and we kind of talk shop with a lot of other people in the community. So it's a great opportunity for you to meet other people. You can look at the event section to look at other events that are coming up. And it is global. I see that a lot of people here are from all different areas of the world. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to reach out to them and connect with other people. I know they also have a mentorship opportunity. So if there is a chance that you want to be partnered up with someone else and a mentor who has some more experience who can kind of lend that to you, this is an opportunity for you to do that as well. Cool. So let's see. Aside from that, I don't really have much else to talk about. I anticipated that we were going to break into groups and then we would all be able to work on this individually and come together to kind of share our projects. But I do want to challenge you to actually, if you don't have authoring tools, so if that's a problem, then at least write down how you would organize this project. We had a lot of really great examples in the comments section. And so you can download the comments, or Chastity, they should be able to download the comments, right?
Yes, there will be a transcript and chat log. Yeah, we'll make sure that all of that is ready to go.
Awesome. And a lot of those comments can be utilized in order to figure out your own project, how you want to develop that. If you are, just starting off, I would suggest creating some sort of mock-up of this particular project. So deciding how you would organize this, what are the important elements, what are the goals, how this would be effective for this town, because all that is going to be incredibly useful when you are applying for a job and people want to ask you, like, tell me how you walk through a project. How do you create it? Tell me what are the goals you were hitting? How would you take in feedback? How would you change this up? Just walking you through that particular project and how you would envision it. A lot of people really want to understand that so that you'll be able to work alongside them on their projects. Genially is a free authoring tool. Olivia, thank you so much. That's really great. Another free authoring tool as well is, oh gosh, what was it? I think it's not Evolve. I'm going to need to find that, and then I will send it over to Chastity, and she can use that as well. Or are you able to share this with other people? Is there like a show notes at the very end for people to like access particular links? Excellent. So I'll be including some other links at the very end of this as well. So all the projects that we previously talked about, and then maybe some more resources if you want to get connected with more people, or maybe if you want to have access towards a free authoring tool, I'll include that as well. Adapt, that's what it's called. Adapt is a free authoring tool that you can also use as well. All right, so we have a couple minutes left. Does anyone have any questions overall, either about this topic or about learning and development? I'm more than happy to just kind of do a little Q&A, or if you need to take off, you're more than welcome to. It's completely up to you. Oh, thank you very much, Kalinka. Yes, thank you very much, all of you. Rebecca, Jamie, I appreciate it. All right, so favorite recent e-learning heroes project. So I've been doing this for probably like the e-learning heroes project club for probably about 6 months now. And there are superstars. And these are people that will post every week and usually help everyone out. You can see that leaderboard if you go on to the e-learning heroes challenges. And there are some people on there that are fantastic that also come to Project Club every once in a while. So Jonathan Hill is one of them, who has a very creative mind. Everything he makes is amazing. There's another woman, Jody, who is everything that she creates is very stylistic and definitely very corporate effective as well. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite recent e-learning heroes project, but I do have a lot of my favorite artists that work, and every time they come up with something, it definitely shines as a really cool project. Jose, you say, does anyone know of some place to download 360 images? Oh, that's a really great point. I know that some data banks might have access to them, but you need like a paid subscription for it. One of the resources that I really use for a lot of my images is freepik.com. So I just wrote it right down there. You can go to that, and it has a lot of really awesome vector images and realistic photorealistic images as well that you can incorporate in. I don't know if they have 3D images, but it might be worth looking into. Do you have an area you specialize in for e-learning, healthcare, or it's usually retail? So a lot of like retail stores that I usually concentrate in. So a lot about like if there's a new product, talking about that product, or also helping out people who have to deal with customers and like customer service. Oh, I'm glad it gave you an idea to work on the project, Francis. I look forward to seeing what that looks like. Would you say contract work is a good way to transition into ID field full time? So that's a really great point. I started off doing contract work, but I also was working with agencies. So agencies would put me in touch with contracts that needed fulfillment, and if I was able to get there, ahead of time, or I was the right fit, then I would get that contract. The field is a little bit more competitive now, so it is harder to get into those if you don't have that previous experience. But you can always try your luck at doing that because it's something that you develop. You have a portfolio, and then you can interact with these people and submit proposals for those contracts. So that is a great way to get some opportunity and some work. But I will say that being able to work in a team will oftentimes help you out a lot more when you're first starting off, because you're not like solitary. A lot of these contract works can sometimes kind of expect you to be working solitary. So I think that it can be kind of a give or take there. Olivia, you say Unsplash might have some images to use. But that's a really great point too. I like that. Oh, I still can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I muted you instead of unmuting myself.
That's right.
Tara asked, how do you make interactive maps accessible for people who are blind? That was her Q&A.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So if you wanted to, I do know you could integrate in like alt images that have text associated with them for e-readers. But I don't know if, aside from talking about a pathway and talking about like the name of those locations, I'm not exactly sure how else to do it. That's a really great point, and probably something that we could definitely like throw around some ideas for, because I feel like being able to incorporate in accessibility into these is something that we should really consider. If you have a town that has like transition areas like stoplights that say what the name of the street is, or if you have people that are working in the event that can, like an information desk that can help out, I think that being able to use those resources and incorporate those into your interactive map would be a great idea. So it's not only just the alt text, but it's also just like engaging with some of the other help that's there. Okay. So we're finishing up right here. I want to thank everyone very much for this wonderful session. I really appreciate it. It's always wonderful to come on here and talk with everyone. If you do want to connect, I'm on LinkedIn at Russell Sweep. You can definitely do that. I'm happy to be able to answer any questions and help you out further. Again, I also lead the GLDC project clubs on Thursdays, so you're welcome to jump in. You don't need to have created a project to come in and do that. You can just come on and kind of rub elbows with other people who are in the field, and then engage with the conversation about these themes. So that you're more than welcome to do that. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today, Russell. It was really good information. And this will be recorded and emailed out. So if you had the registration, which everybody should, because they have the link, they'll get a recording as well. We hope you all have a good day.
Bye now.
Bye.